Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Vampire Academy, starring Zoe Deutsch, Lucy Fry, Danila Kozlovsky, Gabriel Byrne, Dominic Sherwood, Olga Kurilenko, Sarah Hyland, Cameron Monaghan, Sammy Gale, Ashley Charles, Claire Foy, and Jolie Richardson, directed by Mark Waters. And before I get into this review, I must clarify something. I'm not talking about that TV show that's on Peacock. I'm talking about the movie version. So, I have seen this movie before back in the theater, but I don't remember too much about it. Will it be as good as I remember? Let's get into the review. We open at nighttime with a dream where a vampire princess named Lissa Dragomir, played by Lucy Fry, and her guardian in training and best friend Rose Hathaway, played by Zoe Deutsch, who's the daughter of director Howard Deutsch and actress Leah Thompson, loving a song until they get killed, and Rose wakes up and feeds Lissa with blood while Oscar the cat sees some bad people breaking into their place as they get picked up by their Vampire Academy St. Vladimir's Academy workers. Dmitry Belikov, played by Danila Kozlovsky, takes them back to Vampire Academy in Montana until they get killed by a group of evil vampires called Strigoi, attacking them before Rose and Lissa get back home. But Dimitri beats their asses, and we get a narration by Rose which explains their world, which was fine, but the rest of the narration is unnecessary. While they have powers like in Avatar The Last Airbender, and I had to look this up, as Avatar The Last Airbender, not the movie, but the animated show from Nickelodeon, came first before this ever existed. As this is based on a book that felt like this is a ripoff of The Last Airbender, or Avatar The Last Airbender. Rose and Lissa get taken to the headmistress Kurova, played by Olga Kurilenko, talking with them about how they shouldn't run away from St. Vladimir's, and treats Rose kind of terribly. And next day comes and she flashbacks when Lissa was practicing the powers in the daytime. And do these vampires ash during the day? As what the hell is this? Because they walk around sunlight, which doesn't make sense at all. While Mia, played by Sammy Gale, who's a Moroi, which is a middle between good and evil vampires, who bullies Lissa, who's a good vampire with Rose, because of the death of her brother, whom Mia used to date. And Rose trains with Mason, played by Cameron Monaghan from Gotham, where he played the Joker, or something like that. I never finished the show, so yeah. As she dreams of a person Rose doesn't like talking with Lissa, and the acting in this is painful. While I don't like the characters, but the only one I sort of related with was Rose, as I'm a Zoe Deutsch fan in generally speaking, and I'm I'm a fan of her mother's, whom I actually met earlier this year. Rose trains and encounters Lissa, and they go to a feeding room where Lissa feeds on some blood while Rose is chatting with Victor Dashkov, played by Gabriel Byrne, whom I'm guessing is the bad guy, after Born and recently Ballerina and a couple of other films, as it felt telegraphed, and meets their person Natalie, played by Sarah Hyland, as they get made fun of by Mia and her group of bullies. And Rose sees some blood written by a mysterious person as Jesse wants to kiss Rose, and they do so during the day as he brings out the beast in him, until Dimitri comes in and forces him off of her, and Rose sees Lissa is in trouble, and she comforts her, as does the personnel. And this movie is poorly written throughout. I'm sorry, it just really is. Rose asks Dimitri how to fight as we get to the next day at class, as Mia writes a note to one of her classmates about Lissa and Rose, asking one of them to humiliate Rose. As Christian, played by Dominic Sherwood, puts him on fire, and the professor tells him to knock it off, and letting this behavior go on, that should have gotten him fired. I mean, as all he does is let it go, which is, to me, is too much. As we move on to a multi-meaning with Queen Tatiana, played by Jolie Richardson, whom I first saw in a terrible Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot, as she gets humiliated by the crowd. Lissa does, and Rose and Natalie go to Lissa's room and sees her room written in blood, as Christian wants to see how Lissa is doing, while Rose blows him off as a stalker, and we get to daytime where Dimitri trains Rose to fight like she requested. And after they finish, they flirt with one another as it looked too obvious. As I figured they're going to get together by the end of the story, as it's that predictable. While hanging out with Natalie, Rose envisions Lissa hanging out with people until Christian and Lissa tells Lissa off, and Rose obsesses over Dimitri, and she says he's old enough to be his uncle. And come on, she's attracted to him. And Rose trains Mason, telling her something about some wristbands from one of Mia's friends, and trains some more with Dimitri. And they slowly fall for each other as Dimitri gets Rose to the ground, and their chemistry was flat as daytime arrives, and Rose finds a disc and watches it on the computer, which Lissa is attacked by Christian, whom is now belonging to the Strigoi, and suddenly Lissa is turned into a Strigoi, as it turns out, it was just a dream of Lissa's, which felt like a damn cheat. And Mia's boyfriend breaks up with her, and Rose goes up to Christian and tells him Lissa is in love with him. And he walks away, and this is just terrible, as this is a terrible movie at this point. Rose and Natalie go to a party at Lissa's place, and Lissa and Rose get itchy and sees a different guy as Rose leaves, and Lissa follows behind her and tries to say her goodbyes, as Rose wasn't in the mood, and explains what happened with Christian and Rose, almost punching Natalie in the nose, as we hear werewolves, which didn't feel convincing enough, as Lissa sees her backpack with a dead Oscar, and I'm like, aw, don't kill the cat. As Rose flashbacks of Mish Karp, played briefly by Claire Foy, who she was introduced earlier, but I didn't know it was her until this moment, leaving St. Vladimir's. And we get back to Rose having a meeting with the personnel about how Lissa needs help, and she goes with Dimitri to watch what happened, and Lissa talks with the personnel about how Rose said, and goes to Christian and to discover why someone killed her cat. As this plot is unreal, as I don't understand this plot, and I'm alienating this movie because of the fact that they killed the poor kitty cat. That breaks my heart. Lissa sees Christian with Rose, as Rose sees she's really in love with Christian, as Lissa walks away after Christian kisses her, as Rose follows her to talk with her until she breaks a bone in her leg. And the doctors healed it rather too quickly and forgives each other rather too quickly, as Kurova advises a thing that Rose agrees with. And the next thing you know, Lissa goes to the mall with Rose and Dimitri, as Dimitri falls behind, and Rose gets freaked out twice, once by a group of teenagers, and the second time because almost beating up a perfume guy. And they look for clothes as Rose sees a necklace and that suits her, and next thing you know, Natalie's father gives it to Rose and tries it on, and Rose, Lissa, and Natalie go to the dance without knowing who their friends are versus who their enemies are, as Christian dances with Lissa, while Rose bumps into Mason, who tells Jesse and another guy to apologize to her for humiliating her earlier in the film, and one of them dances with Natalie, and then Jesse walks away humiliated, and the scene was just poorly acted as this entire movie. Mia comes up to Lissa and talks down to her, and eventually Rose comes in and punches Mia in the face and tries to talk with Kurova, as she gives her a potion to make her remain calm, but she gets the taste of her own medicine as she sees Lissa is in trouble and goes to Dimitri and briefly kisses him as she wakes up and says Lissa has been captured, and they go to him with Christian in the car without realizing it. Meanwhile, Lissa and Rose, in Lissa's vision, see Victor is the bad guy. And how did I not know that? Or how did I know that, I mean? It's typical Gabriel Byrne. After seeing so many movies with him in it, meanwhile, they torture Lissa and makes Victor to not look crippled anymore, and Dimitri tells Rose to stay in the car, but she doesn't, and neither does Christian, and they get in and beat up on some guards. While they rescue Lissa, she forces a guy to fly out the window, which was stupid enough as it is. Victor gets out of the room as Dimitri beats up the guard, while Rose catches up with Lissa, as does Christian, and he gets shot with Rose, Dimitri, and Lissa getting attacked by the werewolves, as Christian gets them burned up, while he's still wounded, and the wolves looked bad with some cheap looking special effects. And they get back to St. Vladimir's, and they have Victor trapped in a jail cell, with Rose asking him some questions, and he escapes and knocks out Dimitri and Rose as they learn Natalie was involved, which was just lame, as Natalie breaks him out as she's his daughter, which was bullcrap in so many levels. And we get the Rose versus Natalie fight as Rose is close to losing, and Dimitri gets up and knocks out Victor, and Rose beats Natalie by choking her to death, which felt very unrealistic and unconvincing. And we see Lissa getting honored by Queen Tatiana as Rose and Dimitri fall in love with each other as she flips him over and they almost kiss. And we move on to the ending where it feels like false advertising, where it sets up for a sequel that'll never happen because critically, this is a bad movie with poor box office as it got rebooted to a TV show on Peacock. And how will I rate this movie? Let's talk about it. I'll give this movie a 3.1 out of 10. The narration by Rose in the opening scene was fine, but the rest was absolutely unnecessary. While these vampires used the same powers as Avatar: The Last Airbender, that felt like a copycat / ripoff, while this movie doesn't make any sense and the acting in this is painful. And I don't like the characters, but the one I relate with is Rose, as I'm a Zoe Deutsch fan in general. Like, I'm a fan of her mother, Leah Thompson's, and my eyes were on her most of the movie. Gabriel Byrne's character as the bad guy was so obviously telegraphed, as this movie is so poorly written, and I figured Rose and Dimitri were going to get together in the story, as it's that predictable. While the plot is absolutely unreal, as I don't understand this plot, and the climax set up something that'll never happen until a TV show on Peacock, as that's false advertising, and this is stupid enough as it is. It's poorly acted by the actors, and the special effects looked pretty bad, as well as cheap, with Natalie being the villain, and this movie was just lame. And unfortunately, this is a non-recommendation for this movie, because this movie is bad for sure, as the ending was just bull crap, as well as very unrealistic and unconvincing, and I wish I liked this movie better than I did, but the truth is, I unfortunately didn't. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this review, and until, I don't know, whenever, I am a vampire and I will suck your blood. Not.